You know, we do a lot of good inspiring here, the three of us, but these guys do such an amazing job inspiring you all, and we're so present to that, and we're so grateful because we hear other centers don't have what we've got, and so we're deeply, deeply blessed, and we thank you. And thanks, Jerry Lynn, for being our new music director. Oh my gosh. You can go to your seats. So I thought it would be fitting for me to start with a Zen story since since I talked about the world religions today. So there's a student and his master, they're having a discussion about life, and the student turns to the master and says, "What happens when we die?" And so the master had a teacup that was nearby, and he threw it to the ground, and it broke to smithereens. And he started laughing, and he looked over to his student and said, "You don't need to worry, you'll be fine. Just don't get attached to the teacup." Y'all get it, right? I don't need to explain it. Well, isn't it? It's true for all of us, right? We live this life, and we get attached to a lot of things. It isn't just about the afterlife, but we get attached, and when things break, we suffer, right? We suffer. So when I was thinking about my talk today, believe it or not, I was going in a totally different direction. I was thinking about what the song that Alicia just sang about getting to the other side of sticky issues in life. And then Spirit intercepted me. And Spirit said, you need to talk about something else, something that we really don't talk about very often at this center. And that is the great beyond. The great beyond. Does everybody here understand what the great beyond refers to, right? It's the afterlife. It's that which comes after this physical human life no longer is. And I think we all come to the center not just for spiritual information and inspiration, but some of us come here wondering what does happen when we get to the other side of this journey. And I started thinking about that, and I realized our book that we use here, The Science of Mind, has a whole chapter devoted to that subject. This is the great beyond Soul. Did anybody see Soul? I'm sorry, I forgot I put this in here. This is the great beyond according to Disney Pixar. I love that. I had to watch it again last night before my talk because I wanted to see if there was anything I wanted to pluck out of it. But that's kind of cool, right? You're this little guy, and there's this light, and you're on a conveyor belt. You know, that works for some people. That works for some of us. It's not too bad, right? But in our Science of Mind textbook, he doesn't talk about a conveyor belt or a great light. He talks about, oh my God, I'm so screwed up here. Never mind. He talks about immortality. That is the name of the chapter that our textbook teaches. It isn't death, it isn't dying, it is immortality. Because it was important for Ernest Holmes to remind us that our souls do not end here. Our souls go on after this is finished. And when I was thinking about that, can we go back to the soul wisdom? Thank you. Sorry about that. So there's this thing I love called soul wisdom. And some people teach that when we come into this incarnation, we forget a lot of things. We forget about who we are at this soul level. And we just think of ourselves as whatever we're being conditioned to be in this world. But there's a soul wisdom that we all have inside of ourselves. And we teach here to awaken to that. Because what we do here is we don't load you up with a lot of things that we think you need to believe. We teach you how to believe in your own capacity to think and to feel spiritually. And so it is my belief that we all have inside of ourselves a soul wisdom about what comes after this. I believe we all have it, and we are here to awaken you to find it. Because some of you may believe in the conveyor belt. Some of you might believe in heaven. Some of you may believe you go just to a whole other space that you don't know what it's going to be like. But we're here to encourage you to go with what you believe. But what we would like you to see is that it doesn't stop here. And so Ernest has this whole chapter on immortality, and I thought I'd bring in a couple of his quotes about it because to me, this chapter has so many yummy nuggets of information that for me, they awakened my soul to something I knew was true, and I could get behind that. So he says, I can believe in planes beyond this one without number, in eternal progress. I cannot believe that nature is limited to one sphere of action. How do you feel about that? Does that resonate for anybody out there, that there's more spheres going on? I know we're taught to believe that this is it. Maybe there's other things that happen, but Ernest had such an expanded consciousness, and he was really ahead of his time because he thought there was so much more that we don't know. And that's why I love this greater beyond, because not only is it a beyond what this is, but it's beyond our even understanding of what we think is possible. And so the great beyond is going beyond what we know and letting ourselves be curious, letting ourselves come back to the soul wisdom that's starting to show up for us and give us information so that we can come back to a place of really getting what this life is for us individually. He says that man is an eternal destiny, a forever expanding principle of conscious intelligence. And I want to stop with that word intelligence, because I think it's a moment for me to teach you about what we believe intelligence is. I know for me, growing up, intelligence was all about the brain, right? How much do you know? How good of a grade can you get on a test? How many books can you shove into your brain and be able to speak about, right? I'm here to tell you that's not intelligence as we teach it here. Intelligence to us is something that's beyond the brain. Intelligence is this thing that is invisible, that is everywhere present. We use the word intelligence for spirit. Intelligence is like what the Tao teaches about God, right? It's about this energy that is all-knowing and everywhere present and keeps everything in a state of movement, of connection. That is what intelligence is to us. So we are a principle of conscious intelligence. We are that greater knower that evolves in, as, and through us. We are the ocean in the drop of water, right? We're everything. The sun, its rays, we're all of it. Man, the real man meaning the spirit of who you are, is birthless, deathless, changeless, and God as man in man is man. So yes, we're going to that place of saying we are spirit expressing. We are spirit incarnate. Everything that we are is spirit. And I know for some of you out there, that's a tall order to even be able to begin to entertain as a belief. Because a lot of us have been taught that we're just this, we're just that, we're not enough, we're just a speck. But we're here to tell you, no, that's not true. You're everything. You are everything. And that's what Ernest is telling us. Ernest says, I believe in the continuation of the personal life beyond the grave, in the continuity of the individual stream of consciousness with a full recollection of itself and the ability to know and to make itself known. So what he is saying is that life is a continual expression of itself. It doesn't just start and stop and start and stop. This class that's almost wrapping up that I'm teaching about quantum physics teaches that we've been taught to think about everything as mechanical. Everything has its box, it's start and stop, start and stop. Ernest teaches us, no, it is all continual movement of life. So what I'm doing here, when I go there, it just continues. And Ernest does teach that all the stuff that we've come to know here, it goes with us. That's something for you to entertain. I am just showing you what he said. You take what works and you can leave the rest. But he does believe that that all comes into our consciousness. And so we're going to remember who we are here, which means we're going to remember those on the other side that preceded us. So Mel Schwartz, who wrote the book that we're teaching, he said, all living beings are energy fields manifesting through their physical form. So this energy that we are, I love that little guy that's in Soul, that Pixar thing. It's like that's the essence of who we are. That is the essence. That never goes away. And that's energy. It's a good symbolism of energy, right? It's something that has a form. It's invisible. It's light. But that energy is who we are. And it is manifesting through this form, this teacup, if you like. But that's the connection with our life and what goes on and on and on forever. So I'm going to bring in some physics for you here. The law of conservation of energy says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. So it just goes to show that our form that's here cannot be destroyed, the physical might, but your spiritual side is going to go on because that's the energy. And it's going wherever next is. So our essence persists. Our essence, I know, right? You got to watch the movie if you haven't seen it. So our essence persists, right? And so we're really being tasked to kind of get to know, what is my essence? What is that essence of me that is beyond what I've known myself to be in this dimension of time and space? Who am I beyond who I grew up to be, my name, my gender, my conditioning? Who am I beyond that? And, it's not a question that can be answered in just a half a second. That's deep exploration. But we're here for it. And, we're designed for it because that soul wisdom, once you knock on the door of that, and you say, I want to know more, it wants to come to life. It wants to give you all of this information that we've been hiding from because maybe it didn't work with our belief system or what we were taught. But it is there, and when we really tap it, things come to our consciousness that we have forgotten. And it's important wisdom because it's your soul, and your soul is that eternal aspect of you. So Ernest says we can believe that when we enter the larger life, there will be loving hands to greet us and loving friends to care for us until we become accustomed to our new surroundings. Doesn't that sound good? I always say, I've had so many animals my whole life, I always say there's going to be just a barnyard. And it's like, which one do you hug first? The dog, the cats? But that's my vision, is when I leave here, it's just going to be like cat, dog heaven. So I can't wait for that. But I believe him. I do agree with Ernest. I think that our loved ones on the other side are right there helping us acclimate to our new state of being. And those that pass after us, we will beckon for them and we will bring them in and we'll teach them the ropes, right? Because life is a continual movement of energy, and we're all energy and we're all interconnected. Our place hereafter will be what we have made it. We certainly cannot take anything with us but our character. Right? You can't take it with you. You just take you take your essence, right? There's so many wonderful physical things. I love stuff. I love beautiful things. I love nice cars. I like nice clothes and shoes. I got all that going on. But I know I can't take it with me. And that's why I do so much connecting with my soul. That's why I know the importance of having a strong soul, of listening, of being really clear on who I really am beyond the physical. And so when we can really dive into identifying with that and figuring that out, we will be able to make that next journey something where it's just an easy follow into a new life, because we'll have that strength of character coming with us. So the spiral of life is upward. Evolution carries us forward, not backward. Does anybody here have a fear that when you leave here, you're going to get screwed up or something's going to go wrong? Anybody? I think it's a human thing to wonder, could it be? I don't think so. But Ernest reminds us that evolution is an upward thing. Even though we make mistakes, even though things in life didn't go as we wanted them to go, if you really take a look at it, you have evolved. You have gone upward. I know so many people that have had so many mishaps in their lives, but at the end of the day, the upward momentum was there. And yes, we evolve up. And so it's important to realize that making our transition is an upward evolution. Whatever your next is, that is what you will experience. So nature will not let us stay in any one place too long. This is where the reality comes in. Nature will not let us stay in any one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding advancement of the soul. And this is the bummer, right? Because we want to be here forever, right? But we can't, because we're evolving beings. And it's inherent in nature that we must transcend. We must go to a new level. And so when we are here learning whatever we're learning, having our experiences that are for our soul to have, when we are done and complete, nature moves us onward. And yeah, it's a bummer. I do not like losing people in my life. That's where my energy is around transitions. It's hard. It is really hard. But it's part of nature. It's part of our evolution. And that's how we're wired. That's how we're structured. But it is the advancement of the soul. So nature demands the change in order that we may advance. When the change comes, we should welcome it with a smile on the lips and a song in the heart. So these are good words of wisdom by our beloved Ernest. I think that chapter is an excellent chapter to read. There's some things that are a little outdated in it, but it is really excellent because look at this inspiration he provides for us. Goethe says, life is the childhood of our immortality. And I love this because to me this speaks of the evolution of the soul, the advancement of the soul. So this is just like our childhood. And when we move on and we realize our immortality, we're grown up, or sort of, or I don't know. You pick what level of experience you'll be at. But I love that idea that this is just a childhood place for us, for the immortality to really blossom and move forward. This is just an experience that's growing us and advancing us. So even though this chapter is about the great beyond, the ideas apply to this level as well. That is such a cool thing, right? It's not just about the afterlife, because as we teach here, as above, so below. Everything that's going on here is going on there. And so what we take away from this is some really interesting things that Ernest tells us even more about. It seems to me that our evolution is the result of an unfolding consciousness of that which already is, and here's the kicker, and needs to be realized to become a fact of everyday life. Right now, in this moment, it is so important for us to be really clear that we are always evolving and our consciousness is always expanding. If we start getting used to that concept right now in our everyday life and paying attention to it and recognizing it, then we're going to be more in the flow of who we are and the nature of life. Instead of just seeing life as this day in, day out drudgery of habits repeating themselves, of just being with whatever you're with, and start seeing it as something a bit greater than that, of seeing that every single day something is unfolding in my consciousness. Start to pay attention to that in the now moment. So we don't have to make our transition in order to reset our consciousness. Somebody said to me a little bit ago, they're going through some struggles right now, and they said, do I need to make my transition to clear all this up? And no, please don't go there. I said, absolutely not. You do not need to do that. We have all the tools right here and right now to clear up our minds and our hearts and to get into truth. Anita Moorjani is one of my favorite people. Anybody know Anita Moorjani? She wrote a great book called Dying to Be Me. It's I tell everybody to read that because it'll teach you about life, it'll teach you about consciousness, it'll teach you about yourself. And she went on a big journey. She had a cancer experience, and she had a near-death experience when she got just very sick. And she went out of her body, and she realized what she was missing, what was causing her dis-ease, was she did not like herself. She felt very separated, and she did not have any faith in herself or any trust or belief in herself. But when she went to the great beyond, she realized, I love myself. I am part of this bigger whole. She realized, as this quote says, I was overwhelmed by the realization that God isn't a being, but a state of being, and I was now that state of being. This is what she took away from her going to the greater beyond in that near-death experience. She realized she was one with all life. She realized that within her is such an amazing power and presence called Spirit or God or Buddha. There is an immortality inside of her that gives to all of us our life force. And so when she realized that and came back into her body, she was physically healed. The cancer went away because she got into her consciousness and realized what was getting in the way of her wholeness. We can all do this. We can all do this, and that's why we teach here this energy of spirit that we all are, and get good with it. Let it dissolve anything that keeps you from seeing who you really are at that energy essence level. So Eckhart Tolle, I thought we would do a right turn into Eckhart Tolle. He says, the secret of life is to die before you die and find that there is no death. How cool is that, right? Because he's teaching us what we're identifying with is not life-giving. It is not that which is the great giver of life, that is spirit. We're identifying with the material realm. Now, I have some quotes following this that are from a guy that wrote a really lovely piece on Eckhart Tolle and this concept. His name is Thomas Opong, and he says, dying before you die is letting go of the illusion that you are just your mind or the drama of it. How many of us at any time in our life have identified just with the drama? It takes up all the space in our mind, all the space in our thinking, and we're it. We've all done it. You can't be on this plane of existence and not have that experience. If you have, God bless you. It means you let go of your false ego, right? We become this ego thing that we think gives us like this place and this grounding and this centeredness, but it's just something we've created that's a false belief of who we are. But it isn't who we are. When we identify that with that, we're not identifying with that essence of who we are. We're identifying with like a caricature. It means you let go of fear. Gotta let go of fear. You let go of control. You let go of the false stories you tell yourself. You die to old habits that don't serve you. You die to old beliefs holding you back. So this is a beautiful thing, because what really needs to die isn't who we are as these major spiritual beings. What needs to die is what we've been thinking we are. All of these false things, that's what needs to die. And then the immortal comes up. You die to the person, the identity you think you are, right? There have been so many times that I have thought I was something that I was not. I always say I have recreated myself like 100 times in just this lifetime, because I thought I was something. I thought I was a career. I thought I was a certain being. I thought I was this or that. And I realized the more I let go of that and hold lightly to whatever I'm doing in this world, the freer I feel, because I'm not constrained by a thing I'm supposed to be. I'm free in what my spirit is telling me to do, what direction to go into, what new thing to explore. So we find out that death is not the end, but a transformation, and that's the big word here. You know, we call death transition. We can call it transformation. We're just moving that energy into a new expression of being. It's the real death of who you are not, right? That's the death, who we are not. When you do that, you realize something huge. You're still here, like the teacup, right? The teacup broke, but the student was still there. The student was still there, and that's for us. The teacup, the physical, can break, but you are still there. That little thing on the conveyor belt from Pixar Disney, that little guy, he was still there. We're all still here in some capacity. It's just not what we think we were that goes. We're more alive than ever. We are more alive than ever when we grasp these concepts. We're more here. We're more present when we are not confused or caught up in ways of seeing who we are that really aren't true. And so that's where life lives. This is your immortality, is your soul, is your spirit, is the infinite presence that you are, that which does not die ever. So Ernest says the experience of transitioning loses its sting, the grave its victory, when we realize the eternity of our being now, right now. Not when we cross over, but now. Because this continuity that he speaks of really becomes clear to us when we realize in this now moment, whatever is next, I am there, right? Whatever comes next, I am there. You may look different, you may feel a little different, but you are there. So I wanted to end with this. Ernest says, and so we prepare to die, not to die, but to live, right? I think that part of that purpose of that chapter is to remind us to be alive now. You know, you don't need to worry about what comes next, as that story I started out, or my talk today said. You don't need to worry about that. Just don't get attached to the form of it. He says the thought of death should slip from our consciousness altogether when we live now, when we realize who we are. And so when this great event of the soul takes place, it should be beautiful, sublime, a glorious experience. And so I want to just encourage those of you who are going through grief right now, because I know a lot of you are. You've lost people in your life that you love. Remember where they are now. Remember that beautiful essence of who they are cannot be seen by you, although I know there are some that can. I know there are, a lot of them. But that essence that maybe you cannot see right now is somewhere else, maybe another dimension. Who knows? I don't know. But know that they are still alive in their essence, and you will always be connected with them. And so that should bring great comfort to us. For those who we miss, should also be great comfort for us, because our life continues to go on and on and on, because we are transformative beings. That is the essence of who we are. So find your essence, give it some power, explore what it has to say to you, and enjoy your life. Thank you. Namaste.